Hey, Christina from the future here. I'm redoing the intro. This is like maybe my 30th time doing it, but I'm on my lunch. I needed to get this done, so let's go ahead and do it in one more take. Today, we're going to learn how to chain, single crochet, double crochet, fasten off, weave in, and make a slip knot. By the end of it, we should have something that looks like this. If you're following along with the pattern, yours should be longer. This is just a basic beginner tutorial on how to do each of the individual components that make up the pattern that we're working on. All right, let's go ahead and get started. There's a little bit something about our yarn. We will be using acrylic yarn. This is your most common type of yarn found at your Walmart, Hobby Lobby, Michael's. We're looking at size medium 4. You can find that here. You'll then be able to see next to it, we have something called our gauge. This is if you're working on garments and you need your finished product to be a certain size. You'll look here to see what kind of hook will give you what shape if you just do single crochets across the row. In this case, a 5mm hook will give you a 4x4 square if you do 18 stitches across and 24 stitches up. This is the recommended size hook that we're going to be using. I'm actually going to go a half size bigger and do 5.5mm. Just because you don't have to always use the hook, just know that it's going to be a little bit bigger or a little bit smaller. We have the name of the yarn here. Today we're using Sea Green by Loops and Threads. I believe that's the Michael's brand. This is the dye lot. If you're usually working on a big project that's going to require a lot of balls of yarn, you usually want to get from the same lot. That way your colors are more the same. Sometimes the dye lot can vary slightly, so even though this is sea green, you might have a different sea green that is either darker or a little bit lighter. So that's good to know. I don't think it happens so much with these big ones. I'm not super sure. I usually just buy a bunch of yarn and then have a bunch of leftovers whenever I'm doing a big project. So, but I have had it sometimes where when you go back to look for what you need, it ends up being a different color and it's very annoying. I don't know if that's like less thing that happens with a thing that maybe happens less with bigger brands, but there's that. Then we have our hook. Like I said, we're using a 5.5mm. We went over the anatomy of the hook in our library class, but I'm going to go ahead and just go through it once more. Feel free to skip over this if you already know. We have our hook. We have our throat of the hook. We have our shaft where most of our work will be done. We have our thumb grip and we have our handle. There are several ways that you can hold a hook. First way, like a fork. I usually hold my hook like this. Some people do a pencil grip where they kind of hold it this way, and when they work, they move this hand more. I like to hold it like this because I work mostly with this hand to move my stuff on and off my hook. That's a preference. Just make sure you're comfortable. Grab your handle and have it feel comfortable in your hand, however you want to do it. Left-handed people, you go about it the same way. I'm not left-handed. I haven't learned how to crochet left-handed either. So just bear with me. We're going to do a right-handed primarily tutorial. Lesson 1, we have our slip knot. Done. All right. For real this time, let me give you some instruction. There's 2 ways I would like to teach this. The first way is just to cross over your finger. Then you can either use your hook or use your finger to pull out the yarn and pull it tight. Let me show you the way with the hook. Cross over, pinch. Use your hook, slide it in through the top, and pull up and pull tight. That is your slip knot. That will be the beginning of most stitches. Unless you're doing a magic circle, but I'm not going to teach magic circle today. We can learn magic circle another day, in another video, in another time. For now, we have our slip knot. The second way I would like to teach it, take your end of the yarn in your hand, drape it over your 2 fingers, making an X. Grab it with your thumb take the longer part of your yarn. It should be underneath the shorter part. See, the shorter part is here because it comes out this side. The longer part goes underneath, gets connected to the ball of yarn here. Take the long part, put it in between your fingers, and then pull up and over. Don't let go. You're going to instead just pull them both tight. And you have a slip knot. Insert your hook with this is now the tail because it's not connected to anything. Insert your hook so that the tail sits on the handle side of your hook, and we will start your crochet project that way. I'm going to demonstrate it once more. Take, wrap, grab, put, pull, yoink, and done. Now I'm going to get ready for our very first chain stitches. To start your chain stitch, have your slip knot on, not too tight, not too loose. You're going to pinch it with your thumb and forefinger, and with these thumb and the forefinger, you're always kind of pulling down slightly to make a little gap underneath your hook. I like to say that if you can pinch it shut, that's good enough, because when you pull your hook through, all you're doing is loosening this part so that your hook can slide through. Okay? Keep that in mind as we continue the next part. To do a chain, you will yarn over. That means placing the yarn over the hook. Turn your hook downwards so that it fits through that little gap, and then pull it through. Again, that will look like this. And when you get the rhythm, it basically makes itself. Now, if you're like me right now and you've made a couple and now it's getting longer and longer and longer and it's kind of getting hard to control, you're going to pinch and just pull your fingers back up. You want to keep your thumb and forefinger as close to the hook as you can. Maybe do 4, 5, or 3 stitches before you readjust to the next area, so that you can keep everything nice and uniform. You want your stitches to stay the same consistent tightness and size. Some of them are allowed to pucker, like if I'm being picky, this one's kind of splitting a little bit, but it's fine. It's not going to make that much of a deal. If you have one that maybe looks like this, and then maybe one that looks super tight and then super loose, this is what you don't want when they are not the same size. And you also don't want to accidentally drop it, twist it around, and then start making them the other way. If yours looks like this, where they're not the same size, you want to undo it and you want to try again. Take your time, practice, and you're not going to be perfect the first time. Hell, I'm hardly perfect now, but you will take the time and go slow, and it's a fun project. Doing chains may not seem fun. It does get repetitive. It's a little monotonous, but put some music on in the background, put on your favorite show, put a podcast, put an audiobook, and just go to town. Crocheting is a relaxing hobby, so you want to make sure you're relaxed. Don't put a lot of stress into your hands. It will show up in your work. You should move gently, and your stitches will treat you in kind. And that's a chain stitch. To begin your single crochet, according to the pattern that I provided, you will go into the second crochet from the hook, which will be 1, 2. You will place your hook into the top part of the loop, which is just here. I will show you with the needle and then the hook. So you'll be placing it like that. There we go. insert. Now you're going to yarn over, which we know how to do from the chain, and you're going to pull through just once, drawing up a loop onto your hook. Now you have two. Yarn over again and pull through both. And that's it. That's your single crochet. At this point, you can place a stitch marker in your first stitch of the row just to mark your place. It does sometimes get a little confusing later on because of this chain. Some people, and myself included, will forget that they put a chain and they will count this as their first stitch. If you do that long enough and if you continue up your square this way, you will end up getting this trapezoidal widening because you'll be adding a stitch every row. You don't want that. So mark your first stitch if you have a stitch marker. If you don't have a stitch marker, you can place another piece of yarn long enough through here to keep it marked, but that's a good way. If you don't have any of that and you don't want to mark it, just count. On your pattern, we did 26 chained in did the second one, so we're going to have 25 stitches across. So every row you have should have 25 stitches. Now we're going to do the next one just so that you can see. Insert the top again, wrap around, pull up a loop and pull through both. Insert, yarn over, draw up a loop, yarn over, pull through both. It's that easy. And the best thing about single crochets is it's such a versatile stitch. You make amigurumis purely with single crochets for the most part. You make, everything has single crochets. It's one of my favorite stitches. Amigurumis are something that I specialize in, so that's what I know. And it is my favorite stitch. It is literally the only stitch for the most part that you do in amigurumi, and you just keep count. If there's any interest, maybe we can do a mini class either at the library for amigurumis, and I'll teach you how to make your own dolls. It's a little bit more of an intermediate class, so maybe we get through this first one, but if you're up for it, I'd love to teach it. It's one of my favorite things, and we can make little dolls. We can make dolls that look like anime characters. We can make dolls that look like you. It'll be a fun project. But it's just this. Insert, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through both loops. I might have gotten off camera there a bit, so I'm gonna do a few more. Yarn over. And I want to point out a few things as I get towards the end of the row here. There are 3 moving parts that I'm doing with my hands. The first thing that I'm doing is I'm holding my crochet hook. When I insert the hook, I rotate to pick up the yarn, and then I rotate to catch and bring it down. The second thing that I'm doing, I'm keeping my tension and I'm placing insert. I turn my wrist, I rotate, and that catches it. See there in the hook? It caught it. I pull it through. I re-rotate it so the hook is now facing upwards. Bring my hand forward and back to catch. I rotate it down so that I can pull it through because it makes this teardrop shape. If you try to pull it through, see, it pulls through easy. If you try to pull it through without rotating your hook all the way down, this can happen and it will catch on to the rest of the yarn. It will split and you might end up with something. Let me see if I can intentionally split the yarn here. But you might end up with something that maybe looks like this. And then it becomes stuck because it's caught and it split the other pieces of the yarn. You have to turn your hook down to pull it through. And now the third thing that's happening is I'm using my thumb and my middle finger here to constantly pull down a little bit. If I pull nothing and I just kind of hold it loosely, you see it becomes harder. I'm still kind of doing it. So like if I just grab it like from here, it becomes harder to kind of find where it's supposed to go, because the hole and the loops that I'm supposed to be pulling down, they've gone loose. So it's going to be harder, and I'm going to find myself maneuvering more with this hand to pull it through. So what you're doing with your thumb and your middle finger is you're pulling it down, creating a tautness in the loops that are on your hook so that you can pull them through easily. Then you adjust, grab the next stitch. I rotate it, which is doing two things. It's pushing with my thumb and my index, or my thumb and my middle finger, the loop, inserting the hook into the stitch. It's also bringing the yarn forward so that it yarns over when I turn backwards. I bring my hook down, I go through, bring it back to the working area, yarn over, and then I adjust and grab it closer so that I can pull down here and make the openings on the loops a little bit bigger. It's gonna take some time. Go slow. But you will. Oh, I yarned over extra on that one. It's gonna take some time, but you wanna go slow, but you're gonna just make sure to keep these moving parts. If something is too loose or too tight, you'll feel it, you'll struggle with it, and you'll be fighting with your hook. Don't fight your hook. Don't fight the yarn. You won't win. Just go slow. Insert, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through both. Insert. For this segment, I would recommend rewatching this several times to see what parts of my fingers and my hands are moving with what. I am inserting and using my thumb and middle finger to push through. I'm yarning over when I bring my hand forward, pulling it down, pulling it up. I use my index finger to keep my yarns back here, my loops back here, to keep them the same size. And just remember to keep pulling down. You don't have to pull super hard, just enough to give you that spot so you don't ungrip it and lose it by accident. And then once you've reached the end of the row, you will have your very first single crochet row, and I'm proud of you. Good job. Now we'll do the next part. Now, for the next part on the pattern that I provided you, I instructed chain and turn. When you turn your work, all you're doing is moving it from us working this way to working this way. Except we don't go backwards in crochet. I cannot go into this next one and come back this way. You see, it's already starting to want to turn this way because that's what you have to do. You have to turn your work. So when you turn your work, you do your first chain, which we know how to do. Yarn over, pull through, and then your work should be facing this way. Just swap it over to the left side. Readjust so that you're pinching it here, and we're going to work with our stitches. You see the stitches there of the single crochet? They look very similar to the chain stitch with a little bit of height. There's an extra horizontal yarn that goes across. That's technically the post, so that's what's called the post. It's going to become important for the next stitch, but so we turn our work. Instead of going through the first one, like the chain stitch that we did with our first row of single crochets, for the second row and going forward, you are going to go under both. It's a lot easier to go under both this way because you can see the stitch makes the V on top and there's a gap underneath the stitch. See there's the gap. Even over here, there's a gap there as I pull it apart. To the top here, and then underneath, there's that gap. Okay. It's really big on the first one because it's the first stitch, but you're gonna go into with the two line, the V on top, the top of the stitch, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, and pull through both. Insert over the top, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, and pull through both. And you will do this to the end of the row. The only reason that we don't do both parts of the V in the chain when we are doing so the reason that we don't go through both the top and the bottom V's on a chain is just because it's harder. You can technically do that on a chain, but it's going to take a lot longer and there's really no need for it. It doesn't really make too much of a difference down here. You can see this is the bottom part of the first V in the chain. Then this one here. So this is the bottom part of the V that we skipped. Then you have this here on each one. This is the bump from the back. Our first chain is, or our first single crochet is into this, creating this little shape here. This is the post, and this is the V that we're now crocheting a second single crochet row into it. So here we have the post. We're going to put this through here. Draw up a loop, and that's what that's going to look like. You can see it without the hook in the way. But you only do it differently for the chain. Once you have your first row of single crochets, this is how you're going to single crochet, double crochet, and crochet pretty much anything else that we'll be working on, unless otherwise specified, but for this project that's not a concern. Insert, yarn over, drop a loop, yarn over, pull through. And we'll just do this until we get to the end of the row. I'll see you there. Here, as I get towards the end of the row, I would like to see if zooming in will make it easier to see. So we're gonna try this. Hopefully this works a little bit better. Please forgive me because I've not recorded a video like this in my life before, but hopefully this comes out pretty well. Feel free to leave a comment if you have any suggestions or tips for me on how to go about recording these things. Or if you have questions, I'll be happy to answer your crochet questions in the comments. If you want to see something different than what we're doing now, we can go about doing that way. Okay, so we're at the end here. Remember, we marked our last stitch, so we know that this is our last stitch and that's it. You're going to insert into the last stitch. It's a little bit of a fit, so take your time. Yarn over, pull through. yarn over, pull through both. Now, that is the end of this row. Our pattern indicates that we do 3 rows of single crochets, but since I'm doing this on my lunch break, I'm going to go ahead and skip the last row, and I'm going to go straight to the double crochets. I believe we did a chain 1 and turn, and then the pattern says to chain 2. You can technically chain 3 and then turn. I don't really see too much of a difference, and plus this gives a little bit of a spiral look, which is gonna look like the stitches that we do. So chain 1, turn, chain 3, turn. Just make it 3 tall at the end of it. So once you have your chain 3, let me show you one more time. Chain 1, chain 2, chain 3, turn. I guess it doesn't matter too much. It's gonna look about the same. Yarn over. This is a double crochet stitch, abbreviated as DC. Use your index finger to pinch so it doesn't slide off on you. And you're going to insert it into the first stitch. Then yarn over and pull up a loop. You should have 3 loops on your hook. So it's 1 extra step than the single crochet. You'll then yarn over and pull through the first 2 loops. Remember to bring it back to the shaft so they're all the same height or the same width. Pinch it, yarn over, and then you can pull through both. Yarn over into the next stitch, yarn over, pull up a loop, you have 3, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2. I'll speed it up a little bit. To make sure that I stay in frame, I am now crocheting only watching the video camera, which is a very interesting test to my dexterity and my focus. But it seems to be working. Yarn over, pinch. And again, notice how I'm feeding my crochet through the working area. I'm using my thumb and my middle finger, still maintaining that pressure downwards, but I make micro adjustments to slide it on, drop the loop, I let go and I pull it closer so that I can pull down and make these loops open up so that I can slide my hook through that gap. And then I readjust and I grab the next one and do the same. With my right hand, I'm rotating, I'm focusing it in, and I'm turning it down every time I pull up through the loops. Focus it in, turn up, turn down, turn up, turn down. Into the loops, grab and turn down, grab and turn down, grab and turn down. And then with my left hand, I make sure I keep my tension. It should be loose. I'm using this rotating moment to pull yarn out of the ball that you can see here. And when I bring it forward, I bring it over the hook. Insert. I'll bring it forward, goes over, bring it forward to yarn over. And so it's 2 things happening at once. I tilt my hand forward, that pulls up yarn, and that yarn's over. I pull my yarn forward, I turn my wrist forward, pull up a loop, pull through both. And it's very quick movements, but you can do it slow and steady and focus on what you're doing so that your stitches are even. You will not regret it if you take your time and you focus. even now, after doing crochet for the better half of 15 years or so, I would rather not troubleshoot where I messed up with stitches, and I would rather just take my time, make sure my count is right, because I don't want to undo the yarn. I don't want to have to ball it back up. I don't want to have to figure out where I dropped the stitch. I don't want to do that. I want to watch my show. I want to crochet the pattern, and I want something cute to happen. And you will have to troubleshoot at some point, but if you can just do it slow and get it as close to right as possible, then you won't have to, and you don't have to worry about it. At least not right now. Now finish with the end of the row, and we can go ahead and work on fastening off. Now, in order to fasten off, all you have to do is do a quick chain stitch. Place your hook down and get your pair of scissors and go ahead and give it a cut. Give it a cut about maybe 5 inches of length. You want a little bit of length for this one. Then pull your hook out and pulling the loop through and pull it tight. There you go. You have now successfully fastened off. We have now fastened off. Yours should look bigger before you fasten off, but you'll do this with color changes. If I wanted to add another color, I would slip stitch my new color in here and continue on. I'll teach you that a little bit later on a different video. But now we can go ahead and weave in our ends now that we've fastened off. What you'll need is your darning needle. I should have provided you a plastic one. If not, I'll probably provide it on Tuesday when we meet up next. You're going to take your end yarn, fold it in half so that you don't work with the frayed edges, and push it through the eye. Perfect. Then you're going to go ahead and select a space to go through. Several times. And the point is to make sure it is not noticeable. If you're doing multiple colors, keep your multiple colors together. And then go in and out. I'm going to go down the post. And it can split the yarn a little bit. That's not too crazy. I'm going to put it through the loops. And then pull it through. There you go. And you don't want to yank on it too hard because you don't want to tighten the stitches that you've already made by accident. That will be noticeable, but just weave it in and out a couple of times. I think I'm content there. I'm gonna kind of mess with it a little bit, tease it a bit, and I'm gonna cut it close to the base of where it came out of. So, right there. I'm gonna disregard the remainder. And here we go. It's invisible. And it's woven in, and you will not see it again. Even in the wash. Sometimes, like after years and years and years, maybe you'll start seeing the frayed edges, but it's going to be a couple washes at least, and the more that you weave it in, the less likely you will see it. And just be a little intentional. If you see that For instance, this was a little bit loose, so I'm gonna maybe want to put it in through these parts so that I can keep it close together when I tighten it. Just like that. And we'll do that a couple of times. Now, to be completely transparent, weaving in the ends is not my favorite part of crochet. I will wait until the very end before I do it. Some people who are very good at managing their ends weave in as they go, and that's an option. I've done the tricks to kind of crochet over the work, but I've noticed that when you wash it, those are easier to come undone. So weaving it in does take time. It does kind of go against the crochet process because you're no longer crocheting and you're hand sewing, but take the time. It makes it look nicer in the end. I'm noticing here that in this spot you can kind of see where it's being woven in, so I want to kind of move it upwards and away from this area so that it doesn't look super obvious. And I'll be content with that. Then I'll just snip it. And there you go. And we have officially fastened off. Thank you again for coming to this beginner tutorial, and happy crafting!